It's Cyclone Sunday with Ben Bruns. Breaking everything down from the Channel Seed Studios. This is Iowa Everywhere.
What is going on? Today is September 29th. The Cyclones are 4-0 for the first time since 2000. Ben Bruns, Aiden Wyatt here on Cyclone Sunday on Iowa Everywhere. Iowa State 20-0 winners over Houston last night. It's a fun night. It was a weird night.
Cyclones it was a weird night. It was, yes, you just, 3-0 at halftime after dominating the game. It's like, oh boy, I hope this doesn't take some turn, right?
Yeah, right. It was almost the opposite of the Iowa game in my mind. You go into the half 13-0 and you're like, you know what? I don't feel that horrible right now.
Yeah.
It was 3-0 and you're like, well, it wasn't great, but here we are.
Yeah. Yeah, it could have been, could have easily been 17, 0 at halftime going in. But, we didn't hook up some of those short out routes, and, that just, they were there. Like, it was there. There were opportunities, but the defense really dominated the day.
Yeah, I think we need to talk about the first conference shutout win for the Cyclones since 1971. To tell you how long it's been since they've done that.
How about that? Well, and 5 conference road wins in a row.
Yeah.
5. Like, I mean, go back to 2000. When we got that 4th win, it was at Okie State in a game where Oklahoma State was coming off a bye week. Their coach was on the rocks. They had been running an option look all season long, like true option. We come into the game, they had the leading rushing defense in the country. Ennis Haywood was hurt. So we come in, Mike Wagner's going to start the game. Redshirt freshman, hadn't played much. And Oklahoma State comes out and is running a completely different offense. Like they come out and they're running the air raid with a quarterback named Aso Pogai. And I remember going to Ryan Harklaw at midway through the second quarter. I'm like, Hark, what is going on? Like, I mean, every time we'd go out and put a long drive together, and Mike ran for 174 that day. We go out and put a long drive and score. And it was hot, so hot, night game. And they would they'd go out and score in 6 plays, throw the ball down, and here we go out on the field again, right? So I'm like, Hark, what is happening? He's like, look, this is not the same offense we practiced against. It's like everything about this is different. We have no idea. Like come on, cut us. Like we gotta try and figure this out. Like, okay, I guess we better keep scoring. So, that was the first road win that we'd had in years in the conference. Years, right? So to do that 5 times in a row, it's just like you can't like the position that this ball club is in any better than where we are right now.
Totally agree. Let's start on the defensive side. Cooper Ebel and Kale Brzezina.
Yeah.
Do not look like freshmen.
No.
Chris Williams made a good point. Kale Brzezina might look better than guys like Mike Rose were when they were freshmen. I mean, he's
so big. He's so fast. Like he has all the tools. Those guys were erasing plays. And it was interesting. It's like you can tell the plays where they're out of position because all of a sudden, there's a little cutback run and bang, it goes for 12. And the plays where they're in position, it's like -2 or maybe 2 yards, right? And just 11 first downs for Houston. Those guys were in position all day long. And as young guys playing that many snaps at this level, that is a big physical offensive line coming at you. And, you're redshirt sophomore from HMS, it's like It's phenomenal, right? Like, so I just, and Brazina, he's a man, like just straight up stud. So those guys, and you don't get there without great coaching too, right? How does my job affect everything else in the system? And I think John Heacock, we'll get into talking about Matt's accomplishment and the accomplishment of the staff together. But I love the fact that, Matt's talking about, hey, look, this is, Coach Heacock and Coach Rashid, Mauser, right, have all been along this thing from the word go. And, it shows up in terms of how disciplined guys are playing football.
Yeah. Defensive backs, I thought were, again, we've said this, I think, every game this year, extremely, extremely well yesterday.
Well, and you think about a team like Houston, they're running two quarterbacks at you, right? Who both have different skills, and they both like to run. That running quarterback has to be accounted for by a safety. And, over and over and over again, a guy like Bo is stepping up and making plays in the backfield and then making plays in the back end. Verdon, same thing, and Jeremiah Cooper. I mean, those guys are special, and I don't think there are three better safeties in college football on the field together. I just don't.
I agree. Yeah. Let's a little more defensive stats. Iowa State only gave up 5.1 yards per play, but Houston only ran 47 plays. What's your takeaway from that?
The one group we haven't talked about is the D-line, and those guys, it was a hot day. It was warm. And I just think the condition of this team, the understanding of, managing their motors, right? Because it takes a lot of juice to take on double teams all day. And that's what we ask, those three interior D linemen to do. Take on a double team. And I mean, that's like hell, Aiden, it's like here's two 330 plus pound Houston offensive linemen. And here's Peterson standing in there, at 265 pounds, and you're going to just do that all afternoon. Right. I thought that this defense, was as good as you could hope again yesterday. And, even as much as you thought, man, I hope they don't break a big play because, this has that reverse Iowa feel. You also never, even when they broke a big play, there's always somebody back with an angle to make the play. If there was a criticism, I would think that the Iowa State coaches are going to talk about tackling a lot in watching the game film. But besides that, I just think this is a super well coached team, a highly skilled team, and just when you think you've got that first level secured, a safety comes up and blows you up, or gets a quick tackle in the backfield for a minus yardage play. It's like, it is a thing of beauty to watch.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting. This feels like a different Iowa State team. Like, I was at a wedding during the game yesterday.
Okay.
Watching the game, and, it's 3-0, and everyone's like, here comes Iowa State. 3-0, going to blow their first game in Houston to a team that they should beat.
Yeah.
But this is just a different team.
I think especially with Rocco not playing very well, at least that was my assessment. I felt like he fit some balls into some windows that were just crazy. Like when it was drive it into a spot, like he was absolutely money. But those on the run, you know, underneath man beater type plays. He just wasn't his usual self from my view. But he also never put the ball in a place where it was dangerous, right? It was his misses were always, high and away, right? So, I agree with you. There's an inherent belief. There's a strong degree of leadership. There's not. I don't think that this is a team that will. They understand the road ahead. I think Matt has done a really good job of quantifying, like, hey, here's season 1, do these things. Here's season 2, do these things. And I suspect that season 2 ends at home with Baylor, right? Because you've got to go. He broke it down into 4 different segments, and has been talking about that with them since they got into camp. Or at least that's what I read from his comments. You go win this Baylor game 5-0. Now you're like, it's everything's good. Everything you want is good. But the supreme test lies at the end of the year, right? And so I think there's a sense of we have to just keep getting better. And the good news is you got guys that are hurt that are going to be coming back in that are going to add more depth. And I'm not sure they can add more skill at this point, because I think the guys who are playing have demonstrated an extraordinary amount of skill. But the depth, Aiden, will be something that, will help carry, and the experience of some of those starters coming back in will be a huge deal down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. Cyclone Sunday here on Iowa Everywhere in the Channel Seed Studios. Ben Bruns, Aiden, Wyatt. Let's flip it to the offense. I want to pick your brain a little bit on Rocco Becht as you bring him up. This is honestly probably the 4th game of the season out of 4 that he's had a slow-ish start. I guess the North Dakota game was a little different, but anyway, Iowa mainly comes to mind. Arkansas State wasn't anything spectacular from the start. And then obviously last night, is there anything there, or is it just he takes some time to get into rhythm a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know, and I haven't asked anybody. I noticed that he had a bunch of physio tape over his right shoulder. And I also noticed that I didn't feel like he was planting his feet into the throws the way you need to in order to deliver an accurate shot without having to try and aim it. I felt like he was trying to aim the football some. I don't think it's mental. Rocco's not that guy, right? I really do think whatever is there is physical. And I think, if there's something that's bothering him, I think those fundamentals of can I get my feet set? Can I deliver the ball in rhythm? Can I fully release that football, right? Can I let it go? The touchdown to Higgins was one of those like little like floater like touch balls, right? The passes that he hooked up down the middle, particularly to Knoll, where he's fitting it into this super tight window, were rifle shots, right? And they were the kinds of throws where he just sort of let it, like he was set and he went boom, But I think the outcuts and the underneath patterns and those kinds of things that are both timing and he's moving around a little bit. This Houston D-line can play football. And they were moving him around a little bit. The windows to throw through were a little bit difficult. They were getting hands in his face. They batted a couple balls down. I think there's certainly plays where you could point to and you say, man, you just got to make that throw.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. But I also think there's lots of plays where you're like, wow, he made that throw. So, and these wide receivers making catches, whew, I mean, and making guys miss and getting first downs and like knowing where they are. I just, you cannot be more impressed with Higgins and Knoll than how they're playing. And we knew they would be a strength of the team coming into the season, and they certainly have done that.
Yeah. All right, this is the Ben Bruns specialty right here.
All right.
Let's talk run game.
All right.
Iowa State, 38 attempts, 240 yards. That's an average of 6.3 yards per carry. My buddy Colin Newell called this like the no-hitter for an offensive lineman. It's a game that you can really be proud of like that with the offensive line.
Yeah, and if you think about the little things, right? A procedure penalty, a downfield penalty that took points off the board, and still that productive in the run game. I think those are the things that this is like the absolute strength of Houston's team is their defensive front. I mean, I remember when Allen was recruited, he was one of the top dudes at that spot, right? And he stayed there in spite of, no doubt being offered a lot of money. And we talked about on this program how big of a deal it is when your guys stay when they're offered a bunch of money. It wasn't a perfect game up front, but I also think the bar has been raised on offensive line play at Iowa State. And one of the guys that we haven't talked that much about is Jared Hufford. Playing center for the first time this year in his career. He'd been all over the place, played a lot of tackle, played some guard. The big Sama touchdown.
Yeah. Credit Hufford.
Hufford grabs him, right? So he comes in and he's like, there's just a mess. And Hufford somehow ends up behind him. Like grabs him, forklifts him, and moves him over where it's open, and off Sama goes, right?
It's like a hockey assist or something.
It was crazy. It's like, no, come over here, right?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, Jalen Travis played the whole game, which I think is another thing that was a surprise for me after seeing Neal play, so many snaps over the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
But, Matt talked about competition, and he talked about, the depth and skill of this team. And man, you're going to have, as an offensive lineman, let's talk about grading. Okay. So they talk about Hufford and how he grades out well. Well, a 70, when they grade offensive linemen, the typical convention is on a play, there's three things that can happen. You either did your assignment, that's a plus. You either didn't do your assignment, that's a minus, or you somehow couldn't be involved in the play at all. Right. And so that just comes out of the total. Mm-hmm. So they don't actually include that in your list of gradable plays. And sometimes that happens, right? Like you go out on a screen pass and you're out in space and you did everything about your job, but nobody showed up for you to block. Or you end up uncovered as an offensive lineman up front and it's run your way and your guys run away, right? Or the play gets blown up before you can get to the level that you need to. So those kinds of plays come out of the mix. What you're left with is a collection of did I do my job or didn't do my job on a set of plays, and if you run 80 plays in a game, you're probably grading out on 73 of them. Okay. From there, a winning performance when I was playing was a 70% grade. You think about like a C doesn't feel necessarily like you're going to win, but that's how hard it is to play offensive line. If everybody up front 70% of the time does everything, gets a win, you have a good chance. right? If that percentage is 80, that's that number goes up exponentially. But a championship performance is 90%. 90% of the time you grade out, in 90% of the time you do your job in a way that, that's elite. And so, there's still going to be those handful of plays in 73 of them, right? There's going to be 5 plays that you just didn't go well, right? So when people watch offensive line and they see, okay, we're running the ball great here, and then all of a sudden we, give up a minus yards play. It's like, come on, guys. Like, no, there is no come on, guys, right? I mean, you can say that, you can think that, that's fine. But that doesn't take away from the body of work that's being done in front of you. And when you have athletic guys at the point of attack, and we missed, we were on like the 25-yard line, going in at a minus yardage play to like, where the right tackle got beat, Miller. He started that block perfectly. He stays into the block perfectly. And as the running back presses his way on a slow developing play, the guy just gets off the block. But it was a one-on-one man block at the point of attack. You want to have double teams at the point of attack. You want to have cases where you're working with a buddy at the point of attack. This is really difficult when Houston has as many guys in the box as they did in that play, to win one-on-one battles across the board, consistently. And I think Iowa State did that as well as you can do that against a talented defensive line yesterday, as any group that I've seen in the Matt Campbell era. There's no doubt about that. And, I think Jalen Travis is a difference maker because he can just swallow guys up and in those one-on-one situations, he can be really good. I think the other thing that I saw yesterday is when Iowa State did run zone run, the combination blocks and how they climbed to the second level and how they started with the down guy and they worked their way up were as good as I've seen them in Matt's time. And so what Ryan Clanton is doing is working. What these guys did in the weight room in the offseason is working. And, their mentality, their execution, it's all coming together.
Yeah, it seems to be, keep hearing this, play harder for longer. That appears to be the new Matt Campbellism for the Iowa State Cyclones this season. Well, I think that came true yesterday.
For sure. And we talked about it, right? You go back to that TCU game back in 2020 after some frustration that Iowa State had. And, I haven't told this story before, but I will. We scored. So you think back about that 2020 season, right? What a weird season. We weren't supposed to play Louisiana. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you're in a game with a really good football team on short notice. There were a bunch of guys out in camp, right? Iowa State comes out to an empty stadium, which is not what we're used to. The first half, it's like, man, I thought we had chances to blow the game open, right? Second half, we just get dominated, basically, right? And they made more plays. There was all of a sudden this question, the season that we all had such high hopes for seemed to be on the rocks. And, the last piece of data that we had prior to that was the Notre Dame game where we just got shelled, right? Yeah. And so, it's like we're not playing Cyclone football. We're not playing, that mistake-free, tough, physical kind of football. And I had said something, in the on one of the shows that week about, look, we're just not playing, Matt Campbell's style of football, and we're not tough enough, and something to that effect, right? So we score late in that game. That was a nightmare game. TCU down there was insane, right? It was so hot, and the sun is just blazing down on these guys, and it's weird. You're traveling, everything's uncertain. The stress and pressure is so crazy. We scored to win the game, and I'm jumping up and down on the sideline, and I look over, and Matt is like looking at me like yelling at me like a ref. Right. And I'm like, what is happening? Like just ripping me. And I'm like, what is going on? And, I like came to find out that he had been upset about what I'd said. And, Matt likes to have something that makes an edge, right? He likes to have something that's like, I'm just going to take this and turn this one dial spot up. And apparently I was it that week. And, you know what? I didn't appreciate it until yesterday. I didn't appreciate the honor, frankly, of that because, I just kind of hurt my feelings. I'm like, oh my God, like all I want is for us to be successful. Right. But, the reality is, this is hard. Everything about this business is hard. Dan McCarney sent a message to a bunch of us that played for him yesterday before the game. And Mac, that's out of the normal course of things for Mac. I mean, he's gracious and wonderful, like, as a human, just one of the, we all owe him so much. But it clearly meant the world to him, right? To be in this moment yesterday and, to hear to see him send a note of thanks to us. I'm wearing my Insight Bowl win ring
proudly.
Today.
Wearing that proudly, by the way.
Yep. Mac had 5 years at Iowa State where we didn't have a winning season before, we broke through in his sixth. That an athletic director would give, a coach that much runway was unheard of. I mean, I know Gene Smith was trying to figure out what do I do, right? That Iowa State had not been successful for so long. There were so many firsts that had to happen. And, we never won a bowl game until this. We hadn't had a winning season in 10 years. We hadn't had a road win in the Big 12 in like 12 or since it started. Actually, we'd never had a road win in the Big 12 until that win at Oklahoma State. What Dan McCarney did for Iowa State and for all of us, provided leadership, provided vision, care, kick in the ass, high standards, right? High standards, demand of performance and excellence, passion, right? And it was infectious. It went to the entire athletic department, right? All of a sudden, Iowa State, is great in women's basketball. He and Coach Finley have such a great relationship.
Yep.
But you think about the men's basketball teams, Larry Stacey. We should have won. We should have won a national championship with Marcus Fizer and Jamal Tinsley.
Yeah.
Right. And all of that was happening at that time. And it was success unlike anything that Iowa State had experienced, in maybe ever in program history. And, Dan McCarney, thank you from all of us because everything we have at Iowa State today is based around what he started and his fire and passion. And Matt Campbell has only made it better, right? Matt Campbell has taken it, and the fact that he would embrace Mac the way he has, and just that scar that existed after Mac left, to have that healed, right? And sometimes, when the tree gets hit by lightning, it even gets stronger, because it has to, right? And I think that's this Iowa State football program. I'm just grateful to have seen what's happened over this whole arc of history, and to imagine 2020 season where we go win a Fiesta Bowl, right? Man, like this team, to your point earlier, is special, and they have high expectations for themselves, and they don't have the fear of failure that limits so many teams. And I'm not sure that they have the fear of success that even further limits great teams, right? That's been the thing that people have wondered about at Iowa State for, to your point of like, oh, Iowa State, we finally have a chance for something nice. It's fear of success, which is, way harder to overcome than fear of failure. And I don't think Rocco has a fear of success. I don't. I don't think that Higgins and Knoll and this defense. I think they have an expectation of success, and it's comes from the top, and it's shared by the staff, and it's shared by freshmen, right, that are on this program. It's shared by guys who've turned down hundreds of thousands of dollars to go somewhere else, right? Matt Campbell, congratulations on an incredible achievement. We're so grateful to have you as our coach, and let's keep going.
Extremely well put. It's kind of cool. We were talking before the show. Matt Campbell breaks Coach Mac's record, and Coach McCarney is getting just as much love as Matt Campbell. It's so cool to see this all, kind of come together.
Yeah, and Matt said it really well, when he got the game ball last night from his team. Sorry, I'm choked up, man. It's about people,
Yeah.
The best, like, life is about people. There's a lot of ways we could go through life. We are what make everything go, right? And that's one of the reasons, like, why did he come to Iowa State? He came to Iowa State because the place is packed for a team that was struggling. And it's just like people are engaged and involved and interested, right? Why has he stayed at Iowa State? Because it's a dang good place to raise a family, and the people around it are strong, right? It's not because he loves every day. It's not because he, loves the politics of being a head coach. I mean, there's some things that are just that job, Aiden, dude. When I talk to leaders of companies, we talk about knowing what it is to feel lonely, because when you're at the top of anything, the buck stops with you. People won't tell you the full truth, right? They'll hold things back. They will try to sweep something under the rug, and I think in a lot of ways that's what seduced or took down Paul Rhodes, right? Is this like the sense of purity that it started with, but then all of a sudden there was success, and we weren't able to manage through the murky depths of that, right? And then Paul got super hands-on and controlling, and like, you got to trust your people to do what they do. And I think that's what Matt has done. Set the standard super high. Does this match the expectation? But let's have some fun too. And let's focus and go get it. Right. And we haven't talked that much about Taylor Mauser being the offensive coordinator, and in part because my jury was out, man. I've known him since he was a kid running around doing all the stuff that Matt said he was, that Taylor said he was doing, right? It's I don't know. Can he do it? I don't know. I'll tell you what, he called a hell of a ball game yesterday.
Yeah.
Darn good, right? And we hook up a couple more of those passes, and it's that game isn't even close.
Right.
So put your team in a position to be successful. That's what Iowa State is doing, and it's people, right? So you're right. To see Mac get the credit that he deserves for doing what he did at Iowa State is gratifying. It's healing, and it's something that I think. I got one more thing to say about this. I think if Mac had been given one more chance, I think we would have delivered the results. In fact, I have no doubt about it. I know that Dan McCarney, it was hard, right? It was every couple, we'd have 2 good seasons, and then we'd have a season that wasn't as good. It's it's so hard to sustain. And that's one of the things that makes what Matt has done here that much more impressive, because we don't have as many resources as others. The playing field is more level than it once was, but NIL's changed it again, right? And so there are other schools who have more resources and are investing more than we are. But if Mac had been given the opportunity, he would have delivered the results again. There's no question in my mind. And I understood the reasons at the time, right? I didn't like it. I didn't agree with it, but I understood. In some ways, you have to people have to have hope, right? And everything has a season, as they say. Dan McCarney, phenomenal man, phenomenal leader, phenomenal coach at Iowa State. And, man's got a national championship ring, and he deserves that too. And, we're all just so thankful for him. And to Matt Campbell, hats off, man. Congrats. Keep it up.
I think that's a good way to get out of here. Great stuff today, Ben. This has been
Thanks, Aiden.
Cyclone Sunday here on the Iowa Everywhere Network from the Channel Seed Studios. Iowa State takes on Baylor, 6:30 on Fox next week. We'll see you then.